Back at it again. This is the Rush Hour. I am your host, Austin Rush, here with my trusty co-host, Drew the Commish Carter.
Hi, Austin.
We're going to start today off with a little bit of NBA playoff action. Drew and I both agree this is the best time of the year.
Oh, yeah, we love it.
All right, we're going to start off here with Washington versus Toronto. Washington has a 1-0 series lead, won the first game 93-86.
In overtime.
How do both teams look? I thought they looked pretty nervous.
Yeah, for sure. It was a pretty ugly, sloppy game, especially at the start. Both teams had a lot of tension. That arena was rocking, as it always is in the playoffs for Toronto. Those fans are great. But you could definitely tell the Raptors were nervous.
There was the entire game was pretty hectic. Both teams were just trying to settle in. Bad shot selections on both sides there.
And I think that's going to be pretty much a preview for what we're going to see for the rest of the series. Both these teams have been mediocre since they had their hot start. If you look at their records since January 1st, they're both under 500.
Yeah, correct.
So whoever wins this series will probably get steamrolled by Atlanta in the next round, but it's still fun to watch these two teams go at it. Because even though it was sloppy and sometimes ugly, it was still a good basketball game. Still a lot of tension in that arena.
Everyone likes overtime action. What do you think about Paul Pierce giving the Wizards a new dimension at power forward?
He was huge. I like to see the Wizards play him at the 4 because the Raptors big men have no chance at guarding him on the perimeter. We saw that in the first quarter. Hansbrough tried to close out on him, and Paul Pierce just did a nice old man wily vet move, the step back spin. It was really pretty. He dominated the second quarter. He had 10 points in that quarter and pretty much single-handedly kept the Wizards in the game. And he was huge for the entire game, especially in overtime.
He had 5 points in overtime?
Exactly, yeah. And he was pretty much public enemy number one in Toronto for this game. He had some comments before the game. He said Toronto doesn't have that it factor. So the fans were booing him the entire time, even into overtime, which shows you how passionate they are about their team. But I've never really been a huge Paul Pierce fan because I don't really like the Celtics. But I do love to see when a guy talks trash like he did and then comes out and just backs it up. Because he was probably the Wizards' best player in this game, and he was the key to their offense. So it's nice to see a guy walk the walk.
It sounded like that this was his first stint playing at power forward with the Wizards. He played power forward with Brooklyn for a while, and Randy Whitman, I guess, just didn't really want to give him that shot at the position, and it worked out. So do you think that we will be seeing more Paul Pierce at the power forward position?
I think so, for sure. And then I think a way Toronto can counter that is by playing James Johnson a little bit. He didn't play at all in the first game, and I was kind of confused as to why that was. He's pretty much he's a good pesky defender. He's got some size, and I like to see him out on the perimeter because I think he's the only guy that Toronto can play at the 4 that has a chance to keep up with him on the perimeter. And you mentioned Randy Whitman. I really want to talk about him. I don't think a coach has ever been fired between games of a series, but I want it to happen with Randy Whitman because he is brutal.
You saw that clipboard mishap. You didn't know how to write on it.
He flipped around 4 times. Dude, it doesn't matter which direction the clipboard is in. Just write on it. But the Wizards' offense is brutal to watch. This season, they were 19th in offensive efficiency and 25th since the All-Star break. And you look at the talent they have on that roster. John Wall is one of the best distributors in the league. He's an amazing catalyst for the offense. You got Bradley Beal at the shooting guard. He's got a ton of talent, great floor spacer, and he can go off the dribble a little bit. I like to compare Bradley Beal to Klay Thompson because when Klay Thompson had Mark Jackson as the coach, he was kind of limited, but Steve Kerr came and just unleashed him on the league. And I think Bradley Beal could do a similar thing if the Wizards had a good coach. But Randy Whitman, he doesn't really run plays at all. I mean, at the end of the game, their offense was terrible. They didn't even run a play on the last shot when they could have won the game. John Wall just dribbled for 25 seconds, or 24 seconds, I guess, and then went ISO and got a mid-range shot that wasn't even good. And then before that, they took the ball out of Wall's hands on the play before Vasquez hit that 3 to tie it up. I don't know why you would take the ball out of your best player's hands in that kind of situation. So I'm ranting here, but I don't like Randy Whitman at all, and I think the Wizards would be so much better without him. And it's really disappointing because they have so much potential, but he's holding them back right now.
With Nene playing well down the stretch, that kind of gave them a good win there in the overtime. He had a very good presence on the inside with good offensive rebounding.
7 offensive rebounds in the game.
In my opinion, I think John Wall needs to stop shooting threes this season so he can get in the gym and really capitalize on that.
If he could shoot even respectably from out there, maybe 35%, just get the defense to respect him, he'd be unstoppable.
to go along with that, Beal and Wall, one of the more prestigious backcourts in the league, combined to miss 30 of 41 shots in this game.
Yeah, but
that is not characteristic of these two.
Yeah.
So hopefully these pregame or playoff jitters are out now, and we will see some better basketball out of both teams.
And then you look on the other side for the guards for the Raptors. Kyle Lowry, DeMar DeRozan, and Lou Williams combined to go 12 of 46 from the field, and those guys are the catalyst for their offense. So the Raptors really need them to perform, especially Kyle Lowry. Only 7 points in this game, fouled out before overtime, and Kyle Lowry's his struggles in this game are one of the reasons I expect the Raptors to win Game 2, actually. I think he's going to bounce back in a big way and prove to everyone that he's the leader of this team.
Yeah, Kyle Lowry, he did foul out in the fourth quarter, had 7 points on 10 shots, and that is not regular season all-star Kyle Lowry that we all know.
Not at all. And a couple of small things. I think transition is really going to favor the Wizards in this series. This game, they only had a 13-6 edge in transition, but I think that's going to go up a lot in future games. They missed a lot of open shots in transition. And you got Wall and Beal, those guys flying around, and Toronto isn't really focused defensively. So I think unless the Raptors have a new sense of urgency getting back on D, the Wizards are just going to shred them in transition.
What was the reason for Toronto only scoring 4 points in overtime?
You know, I'm not sure. I don't know what happened. I mean, the Wizards are a good defensive team, but the Raptors are a good offensive team too. They were third in offensive efficiency this year. So I don't know what happened, but they weren't making their shots, obviously. And like I said, when you don't have Kyle Lowry in there, who's the catalyst of their offense, it's tough to score.
Well, hopefully we can see better basketball out of both teams here. We're going to move on to Golden State versus New Orleans. The 1 seed versus the 8. Golden State is up 1-0 in this series. 106-99 win the other night.
Yep, that game pretty much went how I expected. Warriors got out to a big lead with that Oracle crowd behind them. I mean, those fans are amazing there.
It is a hostile environment there. Sure. The crowd was chanting "Warriors, Warriors" in the warm-ups. So, in the warm-ups, you can expect that place to be an absolute madhouse when any crowd does that.
They go nuts for their team. The Warriors got out to a big lead, fueled by that crowd noise, and then the Pelicans hung around, and then in the fourth quarter, Anthony Davis pretty much went on a run by himself and almost pulled the Pelicans to a tie game.
And they got within 4?
Yeah, but the Warriors were just too good in the end.
At the end of the first quarter, the Warriors led by 15. Warriors were up 18 at half and up by as much as 25 late in the third.
Yeah, but Anthony Davis, he kind of struggled in the first 3 quarters. Draymond Green did a great job on him defensively. He kind of showed why he's the defensive player of the year in my eyes. But then Anthony Davis got way more aggressive in the fourth quarter, had 20 points. And
20 of his 35.
Yeah, almost brought them back in his first playoff game ever. So that was really cool to see.
The Golden State Warriors were an astonishing 39-2 at home this year with the league's best record of 67-15.
Yep.
This is not a fun place to play. Again, we covered that last week.
Yeah,
I don't expect any team to really come in here and play the Warriors and come out with a win.
And because they have the best record in the league, they're gonna have home court advantage for every series. That's one of the reasons I like them to win it all.
What do you think? Do you think of anything of Curry only going 4 of 13 from the 3? Any playoff jitters, or is that just
maybe
an off game?
Maybe he's been in the playoffs a few times before, so it might have been playoff jitters. But I mean, for the game, I think he was right around 50%. I think 13 to 25 from the field as a whole. But he's gonna be fine. Played pretty well, 34 points, I believe. He'll shoot better in future games. So maybe the Warriors will get some bigger wins.
I don't think anyone is surprised by Golden State absolutely manhandling New Orleans there for most of the game, besides that little run by Anthony Davis.
Yeah, a big story could be that Tyreke Evans might miss game 2.
Correct.
Potentially more. He said he felt a pop in his knee. So that could be a big loss for them. He's really kept them afloat at times this season with injuries to Drew Holiday and Eric Gordon. So we'll see if Holiday and Gordon can carry the load offensively, but it would be a big loss for the Pelicans if Evans is unable to go.
One thing we didn't get from the Golden State Warriors in this game was strong bench production. The Warriors were actually outscored by 21 points when Sean Livingston was on the floor.
Oh, yeah, I saw that. Yeah, Livingston's got to be better. I think he will be, though.
What do you think of this? Anthony Davis scoring per season. In the 2012-2013 season, he averaged 13.5. 2013-2014, he had 20.8 points per game. And then this year, 24.4 points per game. Is this kid going to take over the league here?
I think so. I think you could make an argument that he's already the best player in the league. And if he's not right now, he will be in a couple of years. And he is just incredible. I mean, I don't think people understand what we're witnessing here. He could be an all-time great. The stuff he's doing right now hasn't been done since Hakeem, maybe Shaq too. So he's amazing. Anthony Davis. What else can you say about the guy?
Warriors in 4. I don't see the Pelicans winning a game.
I'll take 5.
Okay.
I think the Pelicans can take 1 in New Orleans, but yeah, I'm not too worried about the Warriors winning this series.
Any last-minute thoughts on the Golden State Warriors? Not much really to talk about here. It's your 1 versus 8 seed. Golden State Warriors are your pretty much favorite to win it all, just about.
Yeah, so I expect more of the same in Game 2. And then, like I said, maybe 1 game for the Pelicans, but after that it'll be Warriors domination moving on to the next round.
All right, well, I'm going to let you take this next one. Bulls versus the Bucks. All I know, I didn't watch the game. I was unable to.
Mm-hmm.
Derrick Rose seemed to be back to his MVP self from 2011.
Yeah.
So take it away.
That's the biggest story from this game. It's Derrick Rose. 23 points, 7 assists, 2 steals in just 27 minutes, but it's not about the stats when you watch this game. It's about the flashes of the guy who won MVP in 2011. I saw him for the first time be like this since that 2011 MVP season. We had a 2-handed jam in transition. We had swirling layups through traffic, hit 3 3-pointers in the third quarter, just crazy drives and dishes where he hung in the air for what seemed like forever, and then he kicked it out to the wing. After the game, he said, "They're not double teaming me," which kind of shows that he caught the Bucks off guard, just like he caught all the viewers off guard. No one really expected him to be this good. But if he is this good, we're going to be in for a treat for the next round, because that Chicago-Cleveland matchup is going to be incredible. We might see like a throwback to 2011 when LeBron D'd up Rose at the end of the series, and he pretty much took him out of the game. So we could see a rematch of that matchup. Back when when the Heat Bulls, those series, they didn't have Pau Gasol, so that's going to be a big addition for them on the offensive end. What's going to happen with Kyrie Irving when he's matched up against Derrick Rose? That will be a great series if we get it and Derrick Rose is healthy.
Can't wait for Uncle Drew there.
And then moving over to the Bucks. So when I was watching this game, I was eating dinner with my family, and my mom asked me, "Who's the Bucks' best player?" And I could not answer her. I was thinking, Giannis is pretty good, but he's still. I know
you love Giannis.
Yeah, I do love Giannis, but he's good, but he's still really young. MCW does some things well, but he can't shoot. Chris Middleton's a good role player. OJ Mayo has 1 good game every month.
This is true.
But those guys, if you look at their roster, they're basically a less talented version of the Hawks.
Don't forget, they still have Jabari Parker, who was out with a torn ACL. That's a positive, too.
Yeah, so these guys, they're all young, and they're all going to progress and get better. So I'm jumping on the Bucks bandwagon right now. And if they can add a big name in free agency, if they get that 1 star, or if Jabari develops into one, they're going to be really good in the future. You can see their identity starting to develop right now. One of the reasons they traded for MCW was because on the defensive end, he's long, he gets a lot of steals, and that's what they want to do. They want to be an elite defensive team that forces a lot of turnovers, and I think they're going to do it and be really good in a couple of years. So I like the Bucks for the future.
And as you say MCW, you mean Michael Carter-Williams, correct?
Yes.
All right. And these guys, they like Jason Kidd as their coach.
I like him too.
He's doing good things out there. He took Brooklyn to the playoffs last year. Took this Bucks team, who was atrocious last year, to the playoffs.
Worse in the league. Just the 3rd team of all time to ever go from worst to a playoff spot. So yeah, I think Jason Kidd needs to get some more recognition for what he's been doing, probably in the Coach of the Year discussion, because we mentioned Brad Stevens for getting the Celtics into the playoffs with the Celtics roster, which wasn't impressive. Jason Kidd's done a similar thing for Milwaukee.
Any last-minute details you want to talk about upcoming Game 2? Who are you taking in the series?
Bulls in the series. I think the Bucks can take 1, maybe 2 in Milwaukee. But I think if Derrick Rose is like this, it's going to be no contest. But even if this isn't the real D Rose, even if it was just a mirage, I think the Bulls will still have enough to win the series.
All right, well, on to Houston and Dallas. Houston is up 1-0 in the series with a 118-108 victory. These are the games that James Harden loves to play in when he's getting double teamed and he can get his team the ball and then they capitalize. That's the type of game he loves to play.
Yeah, he had a lot of assists in this game. One of the only Rockets to ever have 20 points and 10 assists in a playoff game, I believe. I was really pumped for this series coming in. I thought there'd be a lot of interesting matchups. We'll see if Rajon Rondo comes back and shows that playoff form he did with the Celtics, because he hasn't been that guy for a couple of years. So I was interested to see if he would be that dynamo like he was in those series against the Heat back in the day. After the first quarter, I thought there was no chance. I thought we were never going to see prime Rajon Rondo again. But then in the second quarter, he came out and dominated. He had 11 points and 3 assists, and the Mavs pulled back and took the lead from the Rockets, actually. But at the end of the day, Rondo had 15 points on 16 shots, which is not good at all. And that's what happens when you can't shoot threes or free throws. So it remains to be seen if Rajon Rondo is ever going to be the same guy that we saw in Boston.
A lot of the Mavericks' faults or bad play near the end of the season, a lot of people are blaming it on the trade for Rajon Rondo because Monte Ellis was doing his thing. He was having a really good year until Rajon Rondo came.
Yeah, Monte was doing a great job as the primary ball handler for that team. And also underrated, they lost Jay Crowder and Brandon Wright in that trade.
Yep, to Boston.
Yeah, two bench pieces that really gave them some nice depth. We'll see though, because I still sort of believe in Rondo for the playoffs. Also, it was interesting to see if Dirk will have one more run in those old German legs. He looked all right. He can still shoot, obviously, but he's a huge liability on defense, especially in transition. I was interested to see if Chandler Parsons would get some revenge on his former team when they didn't re-sign him. Unfortunately, he's pretty banged up right now. So
he's been banged up the entire season.
So we probably won't see him do very well in this series. I know you had him on your fantasy team.
I did. He didn't do a whole lot for me.
You know very well that he hasn't had a good season. The Tyson Chandler versus Dwight Howard matchup down low.
I was going to bring that up, yes.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people think that Tyson Chandler's just a tougher guy, but Dwight Howard really proved himself in that first game. 4 blocks in the first 5 minutes and really set the tone for that entire game. If you look at stats for how the two teams shot when they were at the rim, Dallas was only 1 for 8 at the rim when Dwight Howard was near the basket, and they shot under 50% for the game, which, I mean, when you're at the rim, that's really bad. So basically, they missed half their layups. And for comparison, the Rockets shot 64% at the rim. So I think that's going to be a big storyline, is the Rockets' interior defense and how the Mavericks can deal with that.
Former Timberwolf Corey Brewer is having a ball out in Houston ever since he was traded by the Wolves midway through the season. He hit 3 big three-pointers in about a span of 3 minutes, which kind of kept the Mavericks at bay and helped the
it seemed like
Rockets win this game.
It seemed like in the fourth quarter, every time the Mavericks started to make a run and maybe pull within a few points, Corey Brewer would hit a 3 and that run would be over and the Mavericks would regain control. Or the Rockets would regain control, excuse me. He's just one of many secondary guys on Houston to have a great game. Trevor Ariza, 12 points, 11 rebounds, 6 assists, 3 steals.
Even Jason Terry is stepping up.
Jason Terry,
old man.
16 points and 4 threes. And then Terrence Jones, a quiet 19 points, 9 rebounds, and 6 assists. So those secondary guys were huge for Houston. Another thing I want to mention, as we progress in this series, I think we might see the Mavericks employ a hack-a-shack strategy on someone on the Rockets, because they have 4 really awful free throw shooters. Dwight, Dorsey, Joey Dorsey, Clint Capella, and Josh Smith are all very bad from the free throw line. So I think the Mavericks coach, Rick Carlisle, will probably foul those guys a lot. So we might see some slow, boring basketball upcoming.
Who are you taking in the series?
I picked Dallas as a nice upset pick for the first round. But after watching Houston look so much faster, and that crowd was really into it, I'll take Houston at 7. All
right. Celtics-Cavs. Cavs handed the Celtics their first round loss, 113-100. The big 3 combined for 69 of the team's points. Kyrie Irving goes off for 30, LeBron for 20. Kevin Love, 19-12. Mr. Love, playoff debuts for Kyrie Irving and Kevin Love. How do you think they did overall?
Kyrie was incredible. He was just a dynamo, and he was displaying that Uncle Drew handle that we saw in the commercials. And Marcus Smart for the Celtics is a really good perimeter defender. He could not stay in front of him. Kyrie Irving was fantastic. And Love, he was all right. He's still terrible on the defensive end. But I did like how the Cavs, they went to Love on the first possession of the game, tried to get him involved. I know that's something Miami did with Chris Bosh to try to get, the third banana, the big three, involved early. So Kevin Love had a decent game, but Kyrie was probably the story for me.
A lot of people still aren't believing in Kevin Love, with his 6 seasons here. He always put up garbage points with late against no one.
Empty stats. But yeah, he was pretty good. I think Kevin Love right now is mentally not really involved in the games. I think at this point, he's kind of expecting to leave Cleveland at the end of the season. But he was pretty good in this game. Like I said, though, he's just terrible defensively, and the Celtics really took advantage of that in the pick and roll. I really like to watch the Celtics offense. They just do a ton of screens on the perimeter and a bunch of spacing because most of their big men can shoot. And that's how you get into the playoffs with a roster this bad, when you have just beautiful flowing offense like that. So Brad Stevens deserves a lot of credit for the offense he's installed there.
If the Celtics are going to play the Cavs well and possibly win a couple of games, Isaiah Thomas, I believe, will be the difference maker for the Boston Celtics. In his time with the Boston Celtics, even though it's been short, he averaged 19 points on only 26 minutes.
Yeah.
Which is very impressive.
He's dynamic. In this game, I think he had 20 and 11 or
22, I think.
22, yeah. He was really good in this game. Actually, on our last show when we did awards, I picked Lou Williams to win Sixth Man of the Year. After watching this game, I would switch it to Isaiah Thomas because he's just so amazing off the bench. He's so dynamic offensively. I know actually Lou Williams did win Sixth Man of the Year today, but Isaiah Thomas is really fun to watch off the bench.
He's crafty. He can do it all. He can drive, and he's got that deadly three-point shot.
Yeah, he's a great offensive player. Tristan Thompson for the Cavs doesn't really get a lot of recognition. He comes off the bench, but he was great on the offensive glass in this game. 4 offensive rebounds in the first half, and that's somewhere that the Cavs can really take advantage of the Celtics' lack of interior defense and interior rebounding. That lack of rim protection actually is one thing that will end up defining the series, I think, for me. The Cavs, LeBron and Kyrie especially, can get into the paint at will, and the Celtics really don't have anyone to protect the rim once they do. So that's really where the Cavs took advantage in Game 1. It's going to be a story for the rest of the series.
The Cavs love their new big man, Timothy Mozgov. That was an absolute huge pickup midway through the season. They made all those moves. You got J.R. Smith, who has come alive here in the second half of the season.
Yeah.
Just a barrage of three-point shots, and they're all going in, it seems like.
Yeah, when he was with the Knicks, he took a lot of stupid shots, but now has good shot selection again, and he's really living up to his potential in Cleveland. And also they got Iman Shumpert, who's going to be a big perimeter defender down the stretch for them.
I would like to see Iman Shumpert. He had a very good three-point shot a few years back in New York. I don't know what happened to it. I would like to see him become more of a two-way player again. But he has, a terrific perimeter defender.
Yeah, and he's got great hair.
Yeah, the flat top. No one does it better than Iman. Well, I'm going to take the Cavs, and I think you'll take the Cavs too.
Definitely. I think Brad Stevens can probably steal a game for the Celtics in Boston, so I'll take Cavs in 5.
I don't think LeBron James wants to waste any time. Probably wants a little bit of a time off in between series.
Probably.
Get these guys rested and ready to go for the Bulls. Nets Hawks, a little bit closer than we expected. 99-92 win for the Hawks.
Yeah, it was
series lead.
It was a sloppy game for the Hawks. They didn't really impress me at all, but they still got the W, and I think they'll be better in the next game. The Hawks and Nets played 4 times this season, and the Hawks won by an average of 17 points. So I expect this to be a sweep. I think the Hawks are just a much better team than the Nets.
Paul Pierce had some comments about his time in Brooklyn. He expected Darren Williams to be more of an MVP, Joe Johnson to be that outside shooter guy to hit those shots. And apparently they just did not want to work while Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce were there. Big Ticket and Paul Pierce were both saying, what's going on here? We thought you were going to push us, but now it's us pushing you guys every game. What is up with this Brooklyn team and just not wanting to play?
I don't know what it is. I think Darren Williams is probably a chemistry killer. And he did it in Utah, too. He got Jerry Sloan fired. He seems just like a bad guy to have in the locker room. I don't know what it is with him, but it seems like their chemistry just isn't really there right now. One storyline that could be big is the Hawks' struggle on the defensive glass. That was probably their biggest weakness this season. They were 23rd in defensive rebounding in this season, but Brooklyn, they were only 23rd in offensive rebounding. So I thought Brook Lopez was going to be a big factor on the offensive glass, but after checking the numbers, he's really not a great rebounder at all. So I'm not too worried about the Hawks in this series.
4-0 Hawks sweep.
That's what I like. Also, Dennis Schroeder was pretty good for the Hawks. Jeff Teague had some foul trouble, so he only played 29 minutes. Schroeder played 24 minutes, and he looked good out there. Looks like a good playoff performer.
Not much to really go with for this series. Again, it's a 1 versus 8.
Yeah.
Grizzlies, Blazers. Grizzlies took game 1.
Yeah.
Against the injury-ridden Blazers. C.J. McCollum and Nick Batum still kind of beaten up. Again, they don't have Wes Matthews, which is a huge loss.
And Aflalo was out for this game. So Aflalo came in to be that sixth man for them. When Wes went down, Aflalo was going to slide into the starting lineup and replace Wes Matthews, and now he's out, so C.J. McCollum is forced into the lineup, and he's banged up too, so they're really struggling on the wing. It was pretty much a complete domination by the Grizzlies in every aspect of the game. The guards for the Grizzlies outplayed the guards for the Blazers. Grizzlies point guards, Mike Conley and Beno Udrih, 15 of 25 from the field for 36 points. Blazers point guards, Damian Lillard and Steve Blake, 5 for 25, 14 points. And then the Grizzlies, everyone knows about their front court. Zach Randolph and Marc Gasol, they were doing their
Monsters.
thing. They were doing their thing. Zach Randolph bullying guys on the post and hitting jumpers from the wing, and then Marc Gasol is that really versatile offensive hub for the Grizzlies.
Yeah, I'll take Marc Gasol and Zach Randolph over Robin Lopez and LaMarcus Aldridge any day of the week.
For sure. Aldridge was only 13 to 34 from the field in this game. So we mentioned Matthews got injured and Aflalo is also hurt right now. So the Blazers are really going to rely on Damian Lillard and LaMarcus Aldridge. And when those two guys struggle as much as they did in this game, then they have no chance against the Grizzlies.
Who are you going to take?
Grizzlies. I originally had this series going probably 6 or 7, but now probably 5 or 6.
Grizzlies in 5?
Yeah, and the Grizzlies' home court advantage is really great too. It kind of took me back to 2011 when they were the 8 seed and the Spurs were the 1 seed, and the Grizzlies upset the Spurs. The grindhouse, that's what they call it, because it's an electric atmosphere, and those fans of Memphis really get pumped for their team.
All right, we're going to wrap up a little NBA action here with San Antonio, Los Angeles Clippers. In my opinion, this is going to be the best opening series out of all the games.
Yeah, I think in this series we have 2 top 5 teams in the NBA.
Absolutely.
Both really good.
San Antonio had early quarter struggles. They were down 12 after the first. Season series between the two is actually tied at 2. Okay. Spurs won the first 2, and then Los Angeles took the second 2.
Yeah, you mentioned the Clippers got out to a fast start. After the first quarter, they were leading 30-18. At the start of the second quarter, we saw the disparity between the two benches actually come to light. The Spurs bench went on a 10-0 run. Yeah, and pulled them right back into the game. So the Clippers proved that their starters can definitely hang with the Spurs and might even be a little bit better. But I think the difference in this series is going to come out of the benches.
Yeah, the Spurs were 0 of 6 for three-pointers in the first quarter, and then, like you said, opened the second quarter with that 10-0 run, 2 for 2 in that run for three-pointers.
Yeah. I know you like the Spurs to come out of the West. Do you think you still like them to win the series even?
I do. I still like them to win the series. I think that they are going to have to go into Los Angeles and win Game 7, though, to come out. The Spurs, they break teams down with their prestige passing and their execution and their ball movement. It's just, You didn't see that in this game. I think they're going to make those adjustments, come out, play the Clippers hard. But this game made me change my whole perspective on the series. I took the Spurs in 5, maybe even 6. But this game, I believe, is going to 7 now.
Yeah, Clippers are a great team. They've been underrated all season.
They have been. The Clippers went 14-12 against the 7 other Western Conference playoff teams. They only had a losing record against the Warriors, which was 1-3, while they had winning records against the Mavericks with 2-1, Pelicans at 2-1, and the Trailblazers, which was at 3-1, while the Spurs went an even 500, 13-13 against the other 7 Western Conference playoff teams.
Yeah. So, and I mentioned the Clippers bench is really brutal. So Doc Rivers is going to have to play his guys into the ground. Chris Paul and Blake Griffin are probably going to be playing 42 to 44 minutes every game in this series. So as the series wears on and we get into game 5, 6, and 7, that's going to really take a toll on the Clippers, I think, and that's why I also like the Spurs in 7.
Second quarter, the Spurs were playing Hack-a-Jordan.
Yeah.
Did you see that?
Oh,
he got comfortable there at the free throw line near the end.
Yeah, he was definitely struggling at the start, but that's something we're going to see a lot, I think. Greg Popovich has said in the past that he hates the strategy. It makes for terrible basketball, but it works. So he's going to employ it.
It does work.
I mean, DeAndre, when the Clippers offense is rolling like it was, they were the best offense in the league this year. That's really a great way to slow him down, is to just foul DeAndre.
This was a great game overall. The Clippers just happened to take over after halftime. I mean, the Spurs went on, like you said, that 10-0 run. Clips came out with a 5-0 run right after that timeout of their own, squandered that momentum. The Spurs came back with another 8-0 run, yet they were still down 6 at halftime, 49-43.
Yeah, and then we got into the third quarter, and that's where Aaron Baines died.
He was absolutely abused by Blake Griffin.
Yes.
That just flat out disrespected. Put on a poster twice.
Yeah.
Oh my Lord. He should be benched the rest of the series.
He shouldn't show his face in public. That was really crazy. We saw old school Blake right there, just making guys look silly. So that was fun. It was fun to watch.
At the end of the first half, Spurs were shooting 35%, while the Clippers were shooting 47%. That's not Spurs basketball. No. At all. And at the end of the third quarter, Spurs were actually shooting worse at 33%, and the Clippers were shooting better at 50%. So,
but we're not going to see the Spurs shoot that poorly again.
No, we won't.
For another game in this series, so they'll bounce back. We both like them to win in 7.
They were 9 of 29 from the 3, and you don't see that too often either. Danny Green wasn't hitting his threes or anything.
Yeah.
What I did like from the Clippers was that very rarely did they allow a bucket down low from Splitter or Baines. You had guys down there, 1 or 2 guys jumping at it, covering the ball. I really like to see that, and that's one way the Spurs can get shut down that not many teams can do, because they break them down with their passing and then they go in and just lay it in. So if they can do that all series, which I don't think they will, they do have a shot. But again, I'm going to stick with Spurs in 7.
Yeah, if DeAndre Jordan can be that rim protector that we all expect him to be, then the Spurs can struggle on the interior. But I don't expect them to in the future.
Chris Paul had himself a night, 32 points on 20 shots, 7 rebounds, and 6 assists.
He's still very good at basketball.
He is very good at basketball. Late in the fourth quarter, I'm sorry, not the fourth quarter, the third quarter, Spurs kind of went on a little bit of a run, cut an 18-point deficit to 9. LA goes on a 7-0 run to kill it right out of a timeout.
Yeah. Did you think when the Spurs went on that run that was their game at that point? Do you think they were going to come back?
I didn't think it was their game. I didn't expect LA to answer with a 7-0 run. You don't see teams do that against the Spurs, or the Spurs just don't let them do that. But again, at the end of the game, the Spurs were shooting 36%, while the Clippers yet again got better with 51%. And this game, it was not Spurs basketball. The passing, they had a lot of turnovers, which isn't Spurs basketball again. So I think these guys are trained well enough. They have, without a doubt, the best coach in the league. They're going to get past this one. They'll still win it in 7. So
yeah, we agree on that. All right.
Adjustments on ball movement, Spurs in 7.
Go to NHL
Let's
now.
talk about a little bit of hockey. Kyle Kinnaman, our hockey insider, is with us again.
Glad to be here, Austin.
Minnesota Wild, 4-1 loss.
You know, I don't consider that a 4-1 loss at all. I look at it more of a 2-1 loss. Could have gone into overtime if Coyle's goal was half an inch lower. Goes in, splits the D, goes on his knees, goes over Allen, crossbar, and then puck rolls halfway across the goal line. But David Backes gets a stick right there to save it.
The captain.
He was the hero for that.
Was the hero. Jake Allen stood on his head throughout that entire game, though.
He did have a good game. This game, it doesn't scare me at all for the Minnesota Wild's chances to come out of the opening series.
Yeah,
they played a good game, and Zach Parise even said we had plenty of chances. They just didn't go in.
Mm-hmm. Typical Wild, no puck luck. Like, I expected to go in, probably split the series 1-1 for how well the Wild are playing on the road. I was hoping for 2-0, but, you know, you can never be mad with a 1-1 series tie after the first 2 there. What I saw, like I said, I saw Jake Allen stand on his head in the 4-1 victory. Without Allen, I don't think the Blues would have stood a chance in that game with the Wild's surge. And one thing I noticed was Steve Ott and Reeves on the Blues. Those 2 had one job, and that was to run over every single Wild player in their way. And they did not get penalties for it somehow. Both teams got away with a lot of calls. Gotta love Dubnyk's response to Steve Ott. Steve Ott standing in front of the net, and Dubnyk just goes 2 straight big paddle slashes right to his thighs. Yeah. The refs weren't calling anything that game, so it's good.
Herb Brooks once said, "The legs feed the wolf, gentlemen," and Minnesota had an outstanding third period.
Yeah.
They out-hustled St. Louis the entire game. They were slow. They couldn't keep up with them. And
if it was
just
Allen,
good play by the goalie. We couldn't get that goal.
For tonight, Game 3, I expect a very physical game, especially with Chris Stewart. I think Chris Stewart is just going to love the X and just like feed off of the energy that's going to be in the building. And he's just going to go out there and make his presence felt very early. But I still expect the Wild to play their skillful, speedy game and not get too involved in extracurricular activities.
St. Louis had more of a hostile environment than I think the Wild anticipated with those 2 early goals. The first goal by Tarasenko was an absolute dime. That tip in, oh my Lord. There's no way that Dubnyk could stop that shot.
No,
that
there's
was just
nothing you can do there.
Unbelievable tip. Second shot, I wouldn't say it was completely Dubnyk's fault. He kind of got duped there. Lucky bounce on the inside. We didn't get any lucky bounces. That's how the game goes. 4-1 again. Big thing for me is the Minnesota Wild need to start winning faceoffs.
Koivu has been good, though, over the stretch. Koivu's game over their last 20 games or so, I tweeted it out, and I'm like, he looks like Jaromir Jagr for how strong he was on the puck. And his faceoff percentages were in the top 5 or 10 in the NHL. I don't know the exact number off the top of my head, but
I would also like to see Granlund.
He needs to do more. You see Pominville have to go in there because Granlund gets tossed out for cheating.
Exactly.
And then Pominville will win it. Like, Pominville's a right wing.
The faceoffs were in favor of St. Louis, 41-30.
Yes.
In this game, like Kyle said, don't look at this as a 4-1 loss. Like they got trounced. It wasn't. It was more of a 2-1 game. Total shots on net was St. Louis 25, Minnesota 20. I'm sorry, St. Louis 27, Minnesota 25. Hits were tied at 36. Both teams were physical. I mean, we're not getting outplayed here.
No, we are not getting outplayed at all. It's just, puck luck sometimes. Puck just finds its way in for one team every game, and Wild did not have that.
Home ice advantage for the Minnesota Wild is going to be an absolute madhouse tonight. Possibly even hostile. Time to return the favor to the St. Louis Blues.
I think it's we can turn it around at home. We haven't been playing well at home. It was kind of a blessing to go on the road those final 3 games of the year. All the fans are like, oh, great, we're going to go win because we could not win at home. But I think when it comes to the playoffs, we'll be able to tone it down because I heard Marco Scandella, I believe it was, interviewing, just says we get overhyped. They hear the fans, they hear the intro, and they get too excited and go out there and they're flat. Or they try too hard. They don't play their game. They get distracted by all of it. So hopefully they're able to hone it in and just play calm their game.
You thinking the Wild are going to split this homestand?
I wouldn't be surprised in a split. I think if the Wild play well tonight, they can win again at home. But most likely I'd consider if the Wild were to win the series, I'd go in 6, maybe 7. But I feel if we would win these 2 games, we'd lose in St. Louis. I think they'll just respond at home, and then we'd win at home.
Well, that's fine. We can win at home.
Yeah.
Give the fans what they want.
We've already gotten 1 there, which is all you need.
All right.
Do you want to talk about the first overall pick with the Edmonton Oilers winning the Connor McDavid sweepstakes?
Yeah, let's talk about how the Oilers got that for the 4th time in 5 years. How about that?
Unbelievable.
Kind of like the Cleveland Cavaliers of the NHL.
It makes me sick. That is the one team that no one in the NHL, I'm pretty sure, except for Oiler fans, wanted to get the first overall pick. Everyone wanted the Sabres, Coyotes, Hurricanes, or Maple Leafs.
Including Connor McDavid.
Including Connor McDavid. Connor McDavid grew up a Toronto Maple Leafs fan and saw himself as a Sabre for the last year and a half. I mean, you look at the Oilers' picks since 2010. You have Taylor Hall, first overall. 2011, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, first overall. 2012, Nail Yakupov, first overall. 3 straight first overall picks. 2013, Darnell Nurse, 7th overall. And then in 2014, Leon Darkowski or something, Jarzynski. I don't know how to pronounce his name. There's a lot of I's in there. But he's 3rd overall. And then this year, they'll have first, probably Connor McDavid. Could be Jack Eichel, surprise pick, but I doubt it. Connor McDavid is projected to be the next Sidney Crosby.
If I'm Buffalo, I'm not upset with the Jack Eichel pick.
No.
The kid is he's a phenom.
I mean, with the Oilers, personally, I think they need a clean house from the top down. You have Kevin Lau, the president of hockey operations and the vice chairman of the Oilers, and Craig Makovich, the general manager. They've been handed a core of just elite goal scorers, yet they don't get defense or goaltenders. They trade them away. Their best defenseman is arguably Andrew Ference or Justin Schultz. That's not what you want for your top 2 pair.
Yeah.
So I think they need a completely clean house there and start over with those core. Maybe trade away a Jordan Eberle and try and get a defenseman. Because if you have Taylor Hall, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, Yakupov, and McDavid, you're set.
Right.
Like, not many teams can do that, but it's been so mismanaged over the last 5, 6 years. It's just
they've been gifted all these offensive guys. Just get some defense.
Exactly.
The blue line.
Hockey, a team should be built from the goalie out. You should go goalie, defense, center, wings. You got to stop drafting wingers. This year, it's not bad getting Connor McDavid as a center.
Yeah.
But you got to stop getting wingers. Wingers are the last thing you need. There's always going to be some goal-scoring kid that can come up and do it.
Let's go back to scores of the NHL. Tampa Bay responded well after losing that opening game at home, beating down the Detroit Red Wings 5-1, evening up the series at 1. These 2 teams do not like each other.
No, they do
all.
not. And I think that this series is up for grabs. It depends on what Detroit Red Wings team shows up. You've seen over the end of the regular season, the Red Wings, they weren't themselves. Like, if the Red Wings come out and play their best game possible, they can take this series away from the Lightning. But if they come out kind of like what the Penguins are doing at the end of the year, just kind of slumping into the playoffs, not playing well, I think Lightning can take this handedly. It's going to be up to whatever Red Wings team comes, and I can't even make a prediction of who will win each game. I think the Lightning will win the series, but knowing the veterans on that Red Wings team, can never count them out.
Motown loves their hockey. It'll be a pretty hostile environment there.
Here and there. I mean, they're called Hockey Town, right? And then during the regular season, you look at their fans and there's no one there. Probably it looked like it was there in Florida Panthers. Like, there's some moments when the Wild played them, and I was watching on TV, and it was just, there's like 11,000 people there in the 20,000 seat arena. So maybe in the playoffs, they'll turn it around, but wouldn't be surprised if there's not as many people.
Red Wings fans might have been spoiled these past, 25 years. When they
was it 24 seasons?
24 straight seasons.
Yeah. They kind of just expect it now.
Sid the Kid, Sidney Crosby brings the Penguins even at 1 with the New York Rangers after a 2-goal game. 4-3 Penguins win.
Crosby put the team on his back. I mean, like you said, he got his 2 goals. He recorded prior to Game 2. He had 1 goal in his previous 19 playoff games. The decisive goal in the Game 3 of last year's second-round playoffs. Until this year when he just came in, he's like, I'm not losing. Put the team on his back.
Yeah.
Got 2 goals, and they stole a game from the Rangers at MSG.
I would say they did steal it. The game, in my opinion, looked pretty even. New York beat Pittsburgh in shots 26-22, beat them in hits 25-21, and face-offs were tied at 29. So, I mean, the Rangers were not outplayed at all. Like you said, it was a steal of a game for Pittsburgh.
And I expect the next 2 games to probably be split. It could go Rangers too. I mean, it's hard to say, but I expect it to be split because, well, like I said with the Red Wings, it depends on what Penguins teams show up. If Crosby and Malkin are like, all right, we got to do this, and Fleury can say, I'm stopping every shot. I mean, he led the league in shutouts.
Yeah.
I believe he had 9 or 10. I think he had 10. So he had double-digit ones.
Fleury can be as good as anyone in the NHL when he's on.
Yes, and it depends on what Penguins team comes through. If it's the lackadaisical ones at the end of the year that didn't, some of the players said we don't deserve to be in the playoffs the way we're playing. Then Rangers will win the next 3 or 4.
We're going to talk about your favorite team here, the Anaheim Ducks.
I do not
taking
like
a 2-0 series lead against the Jets with a 2-1 victory. Coming back with 2 goals in the second. Explain to me why you think or why you don't like the Ducks in this series.
I think the Ducks are incredibly overrated. They are in the easiest division in the Pacific in the NHL. I mean, Arizona, 2nd worst team in the league. You have Edmonton, 3rd worst team in the league. Then you have San Jose, who is struggling a ton. LA, who can play here and there. You know, they're 2-time Stanley Cup winners in the last 3 years, so they are good. And then you have Vancouver and Calgary. But it was just, I think the Ducks they can win that handily. I mean, you have Ryan Getzlaf, Corey Perry as your duo on the top line, and then you have Ryan Kessler as your second-line center. Who wouldn't want Ryan Kessler as a second-line center? And they do have depth, but I just feel after those 3 players, the scoring kind of drops off. Yeah, you have Matt Bolesky and all that. But, I just think the Ducks get way too much credit for playing in the easiest division, in my opinion. Like the Jets, look at the Jets. On paper, I mean, they have good players, but they're no Corey Perry, Ryan Getzlaf.
Yeah.
But they came in 5th in the Central Division, arguably the highest division in the league. So that's why I don't like the Ducks.
And the Ducks have had a lot of luck in close games this year. They're 33-1-7 in 1-goal games, which is just unbelievable.
During the regular season, they had an NHL record for the most wins after trailing in the 3rd period with 18 wins. Yeah, and they did it again in Game 2. And
I think it's kind of fluky. Yeah. I don't think they're as good as their record would suggest.
I expect the Jets to come back and tie the series 2-2, honestly. I stand by what I said. Could go the other way, but I think that the Jets will not lose at the MTS Center. It's the first time in about 20 years since there's been a playoff game in Winnipeg. And you know those fans are showing up. I've seen that they're doing a whiteout again like they used to in the playoffs. So I don't think the Ducks are going to be able to handle that.
So was it just a good 3rd period by the Ducks, or did the Jets kind of have a bad game? Because the shots were 39-29 in favor of the Ducks, 48-33 in hits in favor of the Ducks, and then face-offs were 32-29 in favor of the Ducks.
I'm not sure, but it's just I think that the Ducks, because that could be one game where they led like that into the 3rd, but considering they set an NHL record for not playing that well for the first 2 periods, maybe they might have been playing well, but the other team had the lead 18 times they made a comeback. It's kind of like what Calgary has done. It's just, I don't think that they deserve as much credit as they get. I know you're picking the Ducks because you do not like those Jets.
I don't like the Jets, no. Just want them out. Tavares scores 15 seconds into overtime, and the Capitals' second loss of the series. New York Islanders are up 2-1 in the series.
Yes.
You like the Islanders in this series?
I
still
picked the Capitals, I believe. I've made a couple brackets, and I've picked the Islanders because I prefer them as a team over the Capitals, but I thought the Capitals would get it done. Islanders proven that wrong. I know Drew picked them to go a long ways.
All the way to the finals, baby.
I do like John Tavares and their team as a whole. I think now they got Halak, Leddy, and Boydchuk, a solid defensive pair, and a goaltender that they were going to make the playoffs unlike last year. And they have been proven they can shut down Ovi and Backstrom.
Ovi can't. Well, Ovi did score his first goal in 7 playoff games last game.
Yeah.
So
he struggled in the playoffs in his career.
Yes.
Do you see Johnny Boychuk's block on Ovi's shot?
He was on his stomach and he sprawled out and threw his stick behind him. to end the second period. That was pretty.
That's pure heart right there.
Obi was getting ready to fire a last-second shot there.
And that's what you like to see from players.
Yeah.
They come in and they know they put the team first, and that's exactly who Johnny Boychuk is. He got that from Boston. That's Boston's way of playing. You put the team first, and it's not about you. I love to see that in players.
Yep.
Looks like we could have a sweep in the first round. Montreal took it again in overtime against the Ottawa Senators. Weiss, with only one goal since February 9th, scores 2 last night. How about that?
You know, the Senators, I wouldn't be surprised if they get swept, because I think the Hamburglar, Andrew Hammond, the goaltender, that was kind of just, that ended now. I mean, he could come back next year and continue at it, but they put Craig Anderson in Game 3, and no matter who you put in, you can't get past Carey Price on the other end. So I think hopefully the Senators win, so it's not a sweep. I don't want there to be a sweep this year.
Yeah.
I think that just looks bad that that team can sweep.
Plus, you don't want the Canadians rested, ready for their next opponent.
Even though, that's not as bad. A lot of times they don't like waiting. So I think that the Senators take Game 4 at home.
Yeah.
But I would also not be surprised if the Canadians sweep them.
I think the Senators will have a sense of urgency in Game 4.
Kind of like how they were when they were 8 points out.
Yeah, their backs will be against the wall. I think they'll take that one.
Move over to the Predators and Blackhawks. Your favorite series.
My favorite series. With the loss of Shea Weber in Game 2, it is a big loss for
Huge loss.
the Predators.
Your captain and best slap shot.
And I don't want to sound like that guy, but it seems like the Blackhawks, they just get these breaks where a star player gets injured against them in a series, puck hits a stanchion to win a series. I don't know what I could be
happening
talking
at the
about
Wild
there.
so many times. You look back 2 years ago, and then Nicholas Backstrom, who gave us the playoffs pretty much, goes down with a hernia Game 1 in warm-ups, and then, of course, just Game 6 last year, dump it in, Blackhawks, hits one of the creases in between the glass. Everyone's going to the left because they think that's where it is. Brodeen's going over there. Bounces right back up to Patrick Kane. Who else, too? But Patrick Kane. Brizgalov could not do anything against it. It's just, they get these players that go down on the other team and get these stupid goals. I'll be honest, they're stupid goals. And it's not just against the Wild. It's against many teams where they just get puck luck beyond belief.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with saying here that I wouldn't mind if Nashville did the Wild's dirty work, but also I'm ready for Chicago. I think the Minnesota Wild are ready for Chicago, and they are tired of losing to them in the playoffs.
I would love the Predators to do the Wild's dirty work and get it done and not have to deal with them, because we can beat the Predators pretty easily, I think. But the Blackhawks, it's just something about them. It's the Wild's kryptonite,
It feels so good to beat them.
It would, but also you don't want the chance for the Blackhawks to gain momentum, and I've said it before. And then having to deal with all the Blackhawk fans. That's another thing I don't want to deal with, that whole other series. Just let the Blackhawks get done in round 1 for once.
Yeah.
It would just be so sweet to hand them that series loss.
Yeah, but, I can also see Patrick Kane doing another BS goal again, so.
Well, we'll see. I think that's all we're going to have for NHL today. To move on to a little bit of NFL news here, Adrian Peterson reinstated April 16th after his long-awaited suspension.
Good for the Vikings.
Yeah, it's great. Can't wait to see him and Teddy together.
Yeah. But
didn't show up to club meetings today.
No surprise there.
Yeah, well, his agent has been pretty public about him not wanting to play for the Vikings anymore. We'll see what happens with that.
And that doesn't really make sense to me why he wouldn't.
Yeah.
You see, he says he doesn't feel welcome. I mean, the Vikings did exactly what they should have. They handed it over to the league. AP, the thing is, Adrian's acting like the victim.
It's just because the way the Vikings handed him over, it was very fast. We
were being stripped of sponsorships, if you think about it. We're being stripped of money left and right. They're like, we're not going to sponsor you anymore and give you money if you have this guy on your team.
No, I understand that. It was just, you got to kind of look at it from both sides. This is his franchise. When you think of the Minnesota Vikings, you think of Adrian Peterson.
Oh, hands down.
And for them to just kind of throw him under the bus that fast. You know, he was in and eligible to play, and then 2 days later, nope, hand him right back.
And I
think he just wants to see his team kind of stand up for him a little bit more,
and the
which
players
they
have,
didn't
though.
do.
The players
had, but it's the organization that.
Coach Zimmer said he'd love to have him back, but from a business standpoint, you got to remember the NFL's a business. NBA is, everything is. It's a business. And when you're being stripped of sponsorships from the Radisson and all these other companies that bring in a majority of your revenue, it's you're going to be quick to go, all right, we're going to let the league handle this. And it's terrible that it happened after the Ray Rice incident, where the league was very, quick to do things and very harsh with their decisions.
AP should be mad at the NFL, not the Vikings.
Yes.
Just to let anyone listening, we do not condone the actions of what Adrian Peterson did. We are strictly talking about business of the NFL and not the way he handled punching his child. I'm trying to stay away from the politics side of things, but just back to our conversation here.
Would you guys accept him back on the Vikings?
Oh, love to have him back.
Yeah.
I want to see what him and Teddy Bridgewater can do, because you got a sense of Teddy in year one, and yet there still wasn't that threat of having 8 men in the box every time Adrian's back there. So what are you going to do?
Exactly, especially now that we have Mike Wallace.
Yeah.
Deep threat. You can't if you creep up.
You can't put 8 in the box.
Exactly.
And one thing that even when we had AP in the first game, I didn't see much play action. And I would have loved to see more play action. You have AP in there. Play action game is going to be huge.
Yeah.
Fake a handoff. There's 8 guys there. Establish the run and then go to play action and then have it deep ball. When you have a guy like Mike Wallace now, whose speed is just insane.
Yeah.
I think it could be big things.
So excited to see that Teddy AP backfield.
I would like to see him back, but if he doesn't want to, he's always welcome in Kansas City. We can stick Jamal Charles out on the line, become a wide receiver. But it does seem like Arizona Cardinals are the front runner right now.
I've
if
seen
they
the
were to
Raiders.
land him, the Raiders are in the conversation.
Raiders are in the conversation.
Jerry Jones, that snake,
I do not like that.
always keeps Dallas involved somehow.
They signed Greg Hardy, so they obviously don't have a problem with off-field issues.
Wow, Drew.
It's true, though. I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah. Well, since they signed Hardy, they don't have as much cap space at the same time.
Is Murray still not on a Cowboy? He's not a Cowboy?
He's
yet?
He's with the Eagles now.
Oh, duh.
Speaking
Speaking
I
of
forgot about that.
Eagles.
Oh my
Good
gosh.
transition.
Tim Tebow, ladies and gentlemen, is on another NFL roster.
God.
Philadelphia has signed the Florida Gator
Can we
to a
please
one-year
just treat
contract.
Can we please treat this like he's just another third-string quarterback and he's nothing special?
There's nothing special.
Can we just please not talk about him so much? I'm talking to you, ESPN. We don't need to see him. We have the playoffs going on in 2 different sports. We don't need to see Tebow on the screen.
All right, well, we can move on just for the sake of Drew.
We can talk Tebow if you want. I'm just a little bit sick of him, and I think he's
No, his
overhyped.
time is up. He did what he did. He won a couple of games.
In college.
Kyle thinks because of his kicker.
It is because his kick
and
return
his
got it for the
defense.
35, and then he threw a 30-yard pass. They had to run it here and there, and then his kicker kicked a 57, a 59, and a 61-yarder to win 3 games.
And their defense was incredible the entire time he was a starter in Denver.
And then the playoff win, you threw a regular slant, and Demaryius Thomas did everything for 80 yards.
Yeah.
Still made the throw, which he's not known for doing.
Made a 7-yard
I could make
slant.
that throw. All 3 of us can make that throw. The only reason Thomas had so much open field was because Tebow's so bad that the Steelers didn't expect him to go deep on them or be able to complete even a 7-yard slant. But he got lucky and did, and they won the game. Tebow is not a good quarterback. I think that's established. So
It's not a good quarterback.
I don't even expect him to make the roster.
A little MLB news here. 3 for 3 with benches clearing in the Oakland Athletics Kansas City Royals series. Game 2, Yordano Ventura throws a 99-mile-an-hour fastball right at the hip. Gets tossed. 100-mile-per-hour fastball in Game 3 behind the batter. Gets tossed. You see a good rivalry here. And a
lot of bad blood there. I don't know. I think it's probably more of a fluke than anything. We see random teams get into it all the time. But I would like to see that. I mean, because both those teams are perennial playoff contenders now. And if we could get a good playoff rivalry, that'd be fun.
Torrey Hunter says the Minnesota Twins have found themselves after that 1-6 start. You believe them? They had one back-to-back series.
I don't expect the Twins to make the playoffs.
No, I don't think
Despite what
anyone
Paul
does.
Molitor said, I think it's going to be between a 70 and an 80 game loss season, but they're building for the future. And once Buxton and Sano make their call-ups. Hopefully next year. I don't want him to come up and ruin their rookie year this year.
Say 70 to 80 losses. I think it's going to be more like 90 to 100 losses.
I think it's going to be under 90 this year.
Under 90?
I think it's going to be under 90 losses. It's going to be in the 80s.
You heard it here first.
I disagree. I think this
I
year,
would be fine with under 90 losses.
I mean, yeah, I would too.
Anything better, so.
Yeah, it's a step in the right direction. Baby steps. But this year, I don't think is the Twins' year to do anything special. But when Buxton and Snow come up, like you mentioned, and Vargas gets another year of experience under his belt, Twins have a bright future.
Things.
Cubs third baseman Chris Bryant gets his first hit. Broken bat bloop single.
Yeah, no home runs here yet, but he's going to be really good, I think. It's going to be fun to follow him. Some rumors about the Oklahoma City Thunder potentially hiring Kevin Ollie from UConn to replace their current coach, Scott Brooks. I'd be all for that move. I don't think Scott Brooks is a very good coach at all. This is kind of the slamming coach show, I guess, for me. But I don't like Scott Brooks very much.
I would agree. He's kind of soft.
And it's easy. He pretty much just lets Westbrook and Durant just do their thing. Doesn't really run much offensive sets, I guess. But it's kind of a debate as to whether that's the right thing to do, because you don't want to restrict Durant and Westbrook. You want to just let them run the show. But at the same time, they don't do anything different game to game, and it's really predictable. So I'm not a Scott Brooks fan myself, and I'd like to see Kevin Ollie there.
All right. Looks like we're going to be wrapping up the show here. We got Wild playoff hockey tonight. St. Louis and Minnesota, 7 o'clock puck drop.
Yep.
Right, Kyle?
7:10, yeah.
7:10. NBC always takes those extra 20 minutes. All right, that's it for Rush Hour. Thank you, Kyle, for being here.
No problem. Thanks for having
Drew,
us.
we'll be seeing you Wednesday.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Thanks, guys.